Polypede Works here, coming to you once again with One Piece chapter 1185 entitled Y'all Better Buzz Off, which is a very funny title, but it's very heart-wrenching once you find out what that means. So, in the chapter, we find out that Brook has always been terrible in asking for ladies' panties, even as a young boy, which is incredibly funny as he is being trained by Lady Candle. And Lady Candle, during the training, actually divulges that she has a crush on Prince Ruvian. And in that confession, we see her training Brook, and this is where the context shows itself, in which we see that this seems to be a signature way of fighting of the kingdom, this whole fencing style, as she is hitting a bunch of targets. And Brook is training in a similar way. So the fact that we have context means that Jinbei is cooked and Fishman Karate has no context with him. So I told you all this would happen in the Brook is better than Jinbei video. And here it is in a very minuscule capacity, but it's here. But then we are transported back into the present past, in which Brook is talking to a 14-year-old Princess Shuri that Lady Candle once fell ill during a visit of the world government, and it was a dark time for the kingdom. So it's weird that her illness is connected to the arrival of the world government. But he then talks about how Lady Candle became Queen Candle after she married King Ruvian, which was pretty cool. And he goes on talking about the birth of Princess Shuri, and that is when the relationship of the two continues to blossom as they train and live their life in the kingdom. During that time, Brook tells Princess Shuri about a song that she can sing when she's craving freedom from her parents. And he says, y'all better buzz off. And she asks, why do those lyrics sound so weird? And he tells us it's from a kingdom in the West called Kamigata, which is another new place that we haven't heard about before. So that's pretty interesting. I'm wondering if that's the kingdom that became Thriller Bark, because we're getting quite a few Thriller Bark candidates in this flashback. We also see that, yes, Brook has always been a bit of a womanizer in his childhood and his young adulthood. And we get this funny panel of Princess Shuri chasing Brook around with a skull ghost puppet, which is very telling of what his future will be. That's very grimdark thinking about it now. But yes, they're singing the Buzz Off song throughout the entirety of this flashback just about, and we see just the life and times of Brook and Shuri. But then a weird fog descends over the kingdom, and we'll probably make another video about this in the future. But I wonder if the Florian Triangle is real, or if that's the effect of a devil fruit user. Perhaps those tall things in the fog are a devil fruit user of some sort, and they're a Logia fruit user that's able to create a dense fog that just encapsulates an area of the ocean. Because the more I'm looking at this fog that's covering the Hesperia Kingdom, the more I'm starting to think that the Florian Triangle might not be a real weather phenomenon. It could just be something created by a devil fruit. Because the fog that then turns into smog that covers the kingdom is able to corrode the instruments of said kingdom, which is very odd. And this smog actually ends up taking the life of Queen Candle, which is crazy. So what is actually the origin of this fog? I think I might know, and we'll get to that when we get to it. But yes, Queen Candle dies, and the Hesperia Kingdom suffers for it because all trade has also been cut off from the looks of it during this time of woe. And following that, the kingdom cannot keep up with the heavily tribute that kingdoms allied with the world government are supposed to pay. So that leads to Hesperia actually going to war with the world government. And it's crazy that Brook never has talked about this. That's wild. But Brook is down for the cause, as King Ruvian is his homie. And the reason why he is going to war with the world government, because they said if he gave them 1,000 of his people as slaves, they would waive the heavenly tribute tax, which is not something that he is going to do because he loves his people. And being a slave in the Holy Land is a worse fate than death, as we have seen multiple times. So they get prepared for war, and the people of the Asperia Kingdom are worried, but that's when Brook breaks out into song. But here is another reference brought up by one of the townspeople. They say, apparently, there was once another nation in the West Blue that disappeared too, talking about the concerns of the world government falling upon their island. So I think Kamigata might have been that place that disappeared, and perhaps Kamigata is now Thriller Bark, because Thriller Bark was said to be from the West Blue. And that's when Brook starts singing, but in his song, he mentions samurai and giant folk, which is very funny because in the current day of One Piece, Brook has fought not one, but 2 samurai in Ryuma, possessed by his own shadow, and Kinemon, or Kinemon's torso in Punk Hazard. And of course, the giant folk reference is very funny because we are now in the land of giants in the current timeline, of which we are in Elbaf. So that's interesting. That's a lyric in the song. But to continue, war starts, and Brook is cutting down a whole bunch of Marines and what looks to be Cypher Pole members alike, and he's rushing through from the port and then back to the palace. But that is when he comes upon a gruesome scene. Princess Shuri has slain her father, but seeing as how both of them have double wings and horns, they have undergone the effects of Dami Reversi, which is weird because from the looks of it, Emu is not here. It looks like Marcus Mars is here because we have this big shadowy silhouette that looks like Marcus Mars's bird form. So I wonder if the 5 elders are able to use Dami Reversi, which they are actually, now that I think about it, because when Emu possessed Saturn on God Valley, Emu was able to use Dami Reversi while in the possession of Saturn's body. So while in the possession of Marcus Mars's body, Emu probably used Dami Reversi on both Shuri and Ruvian. But why Emu has taken such a liking to Shuri and renamed her Gunko, we don't know. But here's the weird part. In the back, there's this huge guy sitting down smoking a cigar. And he kind of looks like Shiryu, but I think he might be the origin of the fog. He could be a fog Logia. I wouldn't be shocked, because I think with Prince Ruvian back in the day cutting down those Marines, this could have just been some very eager payback that was waiting in the wings to happen. That's what I'm thinking. That this whole thing was a ploy, and this guy was probably hiding out somewhere in the kingdom and caused this fog to happen. Now, I don't know if the fog could corrode instruments specifically, but maybe it could. I'm not sure. Maybe his fog could eat away at things over time. Maybe it corroded the brass within the instruments. I'm not sure. But I could believe that to be a possibility, because the weird part about Logias now in this series is that we don't really have a lot of them compared to Mythical Zoans, and I think that has to be rectified at some point, especially seeing as how there's no narrative cost in using them because we have hockey now. So we have a measure in place to make sure that they can be contended with and touched, because that's the whole reason why hockey is this in the first place. So yeah, I do think this presumed Holy Knight smoking the cigar is some sort of fog man. I could believe that, but we'll have to wait and see. But if I had to put money on it, I would guess so, because it's really weird seeing him here and he seems to be a new character entirely. So we'll have to wait and see, but that is very interesting. However, with that being said, we are having a break next week, but I will keep you supplied with One Piece content as always. So if you are liking the video so far, click the like button. And if you want to see more from me, click the subscribe button, followed by that bell so you never miss a video. In addition to, please hit that hype button because it really does help. And with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede.